We're standing in front of the South Citadel Gate, which was the most important gate leading into the Citadel of Gordiyon.
Erkek değil mi?
Yes.
Kaç yaş düşünüyorsun?
The middle age.
Orta yaş. We don't have any absolute dating evidence right now associated with the burial, so we're hoping to get carbon-14 dates to help us clarify the chronology of these burials.
At the end of the tunnel, where the wood of the oldest standing wooden building in the world was standing in front of them.
Şu an Gordiyon kazı evinin önünde durmaktayız. 1952 yılında yapılmış, Gordiyon'un ilk kazı başkanımız tarafından yapılmış kazı evimiz. Kazı evimiz dedim, hem bizim evimiz aslında bu kadar kısa süre içinde de olsa hepimizin birlikte yaşadığı, 24 saati birlikte geçirdiğimiz yer. Ayrıca da iş yerimiz. Gordiyon'un kazısı çok uluslu ve multidisipliner bir kazı. Dünyanın dört bir yanından araştırmacıların, uzmanların katıldığı, yaklaşık 2,5 ay süren, bazı durumlarda 3 aya da sarkan bir kazı. Eşek kulaklı Miras'ın hikayelerini dinleyip çocukluk zamanında gelip burada onun kentinde çalışmak bir arkeolog için çok büyük bir ayrıcalık.
Günaydın, kolay gelsin. Hoş bulduk, teşekkür ederiz. Nasıl gidiyor? Çok güzel, merhaba Blanca. We're standing on top of the East Citadel Gate of Gordiyon, the best preserved gate that we have, and this is a good spot to discuss what Gordiyon meant in the ancient world and what Phrygia meant in the ancient world. Gordiyon was the capital of Phrygia, and this was a civilization that probably goes back to the 12th century BC, when a group of migrants came from southeastern Europe, the Balkan area, into this area of Orta Anadolu and established a settlement here. These were the Phrygians. But life here starts much earlier than that. So the earliest evidence we have for habitation is about 2400 BC, the early Bronze Age. At that point, this is no more than a village. And the same is true in the late Bronze Age, the second millennium BC, when this area is controlled by the Hittites from their capital in Hattusha. And then the Hittite Empire collapses around 1200 BC, and of course Troy is destroyed at that point, Mycenae is destroyed, Pylos, Tiryns, palace destruction all over the area. And then, after that, these immigrants from the Balkans, the Phrygians, come into this area and establish a community. And for 300 years, it remains a village. And then suddenly, we don't know why, suddenly in 850 BC, this becomes a monumental citadel. Why is that? We don't know the answer. Clearly someone or a group of immigrants came into this area with a different idea about what Gordiyon could be. And gradually, not even gradually, in the course of only a few decades, a monumental citadel is built. Then there is a terrible fire around 800 BC. And when they rebuild the citadel, they rebuild it 5 to 10 meters higher, using stone, earth, and clay to lift up the level of the citadel so it is just as impressive as the citadels of the Assyrians, the Urartians, and the people in the palaces in southeastern Turkey.
So we are here at the Terrace Building Complex. In here, we are working with the remains of original walls. We have some missing portions of the wall. So Angelo and Umur and Nahit are cutting and sizing a new block to be placed at the wall.
Günaydın, kolay gelsin. Günaydın, kolay gelsin.
So the reconstruction of this wall is completed. except for
it's
the
beautiful.
original,
Yeah.
the original missing area, which Angelo has selected one block there to continue the wall. We will stop before the corner because the new masonry has to key in the future masonry of this wall. So he will stop before, and he's rebuilding the area of the door jamb here.
That's great.
The injection in this area is completed, so the stones, no matter they are splay and they have no base at the moment, they've been consolidated in place. So there is no need of a cable or anything more for just.
No, it's very stable. It looks great.
Yeah, just a stone at the base, because here we could see how the first row crashed, and we found charcoal. So probably there was a wooden member that burned. So that's why the wall did this.
So this will be finished more or less
Today.
when?
Today, this area, of course, Mehmed will continue with the repointing, and then Angelo is going to start selecting more blocks for the new part, the full reconstruction.
Right. So I'm walking down this late Roman ramp placed here in the 4th century AD when Gordion was a Roman military establishment. And I'm walking past these walls of the 9th century BC. You know, when the architects at Gordion built these walls, they built them to last. So even in the late Roman period, they were still using them, even though they were over 1,000 years old at that point. You can see these early Phrygian walls here. They still rise to a height of over 4 meters, even though they were built 3,000 years ago. You can see a different phase of construction. These stones are much more regular in their carving, and they're distinctive because of the different colors that have been used. They love to do this in the Middle Phrygian period, in the 8th century BC. I'm walking toward the entrance of the city gate, and if I kept walking, I would be walking into the residential district and then ultimately to a monumental fort that was destroyed by the Persians in the 6th century BC. We're standing in front of the South Citadel Gate, which was the most important gate leading into the Citadel of Gordion. We have about 4 gates altogether. Earlier you saw the East Gate, obviously on the east side of the mound. There are 2 others, one on the west and one on the north, and perhaps more in addition. But the most important one was this one. This was in use for at least 1,200 years, from the 9th century BC at least until the 4th century AD. And as you look behind me, you're seeing 2,000 years of history. So the first gate is built here in the 9th century BC, around 850. And then it's built again during the period of Midas, probably, in the 8th century BC. Then built again in the late 6th century BC after the Persians attacked the city. And then built one more time in the late 4th century AD, when this is a late Roman military establishment. Then at a later point, in the late Middle Ages, probably the 13th century AD, you have tombs or graves that are set above the old Citadel Gate. So as you look behind me, you're seeing some excavators carefully taking the skeletons out of the tombs that were placed over this area, and also beginning to uncover the late Roman phases and the Middle Phrygian phases of this gate. It's the biggest problem we have in excavating at Gordion, because this site, like that of Troy, is 9 cities, one built on top of the other. So as you go through 1 meter of earth, you could be going through 100, 200, 300 years of history, so it's like an enormous puzzle. You see most prominently represented here, where I'm standing, is the road leading into the citadel in the late Roman period. So you can imagine carts going up here. You see these ruts in the road, or the lower sections in the road. That's where the carts and the horses would have gone into the citadel. This is also where the Persians would have entered the citadel as they attacked the city in the 6th century BC, and more importantly, when Alexander the Great came to the site in 333 BC, this is where he would have entered the citadel. So Alexander, the Persians, Midas himself would have traveled this road on which I now stand.
Hüğün en tepesindeyiz bildiğiniz gibi ve gene bildiğiniz gibi hüğükler böyle katman katman, böyle doğum günü pastası gibi her tabakada başka bir medeniyet var. En üstte 13. ve 14. yüzyılda bir köy yerleşim var burada. Evler kerpiç, verimli böyle Sakarya Vadisi'nin tarım ve şeylerinden, meralarından böyle yararlanıp bayağı 200 sene süren bir yerleşim var burada.
The final phase of occupation at Gordiyon'un dates to the medieval period, the 13th and early 14th centuries AD. We've discovered in the excavations since 1950 a medieval village dating to this period on top of the citadel mound. It's quite extensive, and we think associated with that village is a cemetery that we've been excavating in the last couple of years, which includes over 30 graves. But of course there are many more. We think this cemetery extended for about 100 meters across the citadel mound.
Günaydın, kolay gelsin. Affedersiniz. Gareth, nasıl gidiyor?
İyi gidiyor. Şimdi bu 3 mezar temizliyoruz. Tuğba Hanım bu iskelet alıyor. Bacaklar çıktı ama kapattık emniyet için. Az kaldı bu için.
Evet,
Simon
iyi.
Bey,
Ne zaman bitecek iş?
Bu sabah.
Bu sabah mı?
He, bu sabah.
Bu
Ondan
3 tane mezar.
Evet.
Bu sabah bitecek.
Bu çocuklar. Çünkü çok kısa. Görüyor musunuz?
Ama o çocuk değil mi?
Değil. Büyük adam.
Evet, adam mı?
Evet. Şimdi temizliyoruz drone fotoğraf için. Erkek değil mi?
Yes.
Kaç yaş düşünüyorsun?
The middle age.
Orta yaş. The neck is strongly bent here, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
We're hoping to get radiocarbon dates because none of these burials have artifacts that were placed in the grave with the dead. And so we can only conjecture at the moment about the date of the burials, but they have to be earlier than late Ottoman and later than late Antique, so we think they're Seljuk period or possibly late Byzantine as well. This is only the start, isn't it? In some ways the excavation is the easiest part of the process, because then you'll look at the osteology in detail in the depot.
Yeah.
And that takes even longer than digging the remains. And at that point you'll clarify many details of the sex, age, afflictions, possibly cause of death.
Yes.
These bodies have probably been here for about 1,000 years. Tuğba Hanım, we should measure the length of the body now.
Tamam. Tutuyorum.
Tamam mı canım?
Tamam. 1.79.
1.79 meters. Can you turn the staff a bit towards me, please?
Sure.
Tamam. So Tuğba, you're removing the leg bones now, and you said there's traces of serious wear at the joints here.
Especially the calcaneus part of the feet, and there are some deformation, and according to mechanical movement, and probably he was a farmer. Something like that, standing, and
Hard
also
physical labor.
hard, especially the knee part.
Right.
Can you see that patella?
Oh yes.
It's result of patellar tendons and just lifting. And
Lot of strain.
Yeah, just in the knee.
You're saying that's repetitive strain,
Repetitive movement.
And I think...
Could you help me?
Of course. Your analysis, which is ongoing, of course, because we only discovered these burials last year, you think that the people buried in these medieval graves, they're of bigger stature than those that we excavated down there in the lower town, dating to the Hellenistic and Roman periods. They have a different...
They are totally different, actually, physically, and also the pathological way, and 70 or 80%, and there are osteoporosis and scromor and patterns in this group I'm talking about, rather
in
than
the medieval group,
the medieval groups, and the other groups it's shorter, and you know, just physically most of them didn't have the, you know, just that kind of pathological defect.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Okay. I am, it will be hard. Really sure about this. Thank you. Bu toprağı elememiz gerekecek.
Tabii yapacağım.
So here at Gordiyon'un, we have around 130 of these tumuli, burial mounds that date from around 850 BC to around 300 BC. 46 have been excavated. 28 of the 46 were at least partially looted, or at least someone tried to rob the grave. But 3 of the most important ones were undisturbed. W is the oldest one. It's the second largest one you can see behind me. MM is the largest, and in between is a tumulus called P that was a child's burial. Dates to around 760. Now, MM is probably the tomb of the father of the famous Midas, and it's Midas's first big statement about his power and his ambition. P was a child. Maybe Midas's older brother who died young, maybe his uncle. We don't know. We don't have any indication from any of the excavated tumuli who was buried there. We know they were part of the elite population of Gordiyon'un. The bigger the tumulus, the more important the person buried there, but also more important was the family that he left behind. One of the tombs had 2 females. Another one has at least 1 female. Most of them have single burials, and everything that you see, all of the mounds are hand-built on top of the ancient soil. Thousands of people came, I'm sure, to work on Tumulus MM, the largest of all of them. And it's up to us now to try to interpret from what we find and what we see, how they built it, why they built it, what they put in it, and what that tells us about the Phrygians of Gordiyon'un. I'm standing in the tunnel that leads to the tomb chamber in Tumulus MM. It was excavated in 1957 by Rodney Young. It was so large he could not dig it from the top, so he dug it with a tunnel. Miners from Zongelduk dug a tunnel. It was wider than this. It has been enclosed now for visitors with stone and concrete so that it's safer, but it's also more narrow than the original tunnel. When they got to the end of the tunnel, they ran into a stone wall. And they tried to dig over it, and that didn't work. They tried to dig under it, and then they breached the wall, and all these small stones started falling out. It took them weeks for this to clear enough so they could see what you will see later at the end of the tunnel, where the wood of the oldest standing wooden building in the world was standing in front of them. So we're standing now at the northwest corner of the tomb chamber. This is as far as a visitor can come, because what everybody wants to do when they get past this fence is to touch the ancient wood, and that is not allowed, because all of the wood is damaged slightly from the fungus that attacked it for a few hundred years. But now it's safe. You can see the corner. There are other ways to present it. We're working on digital versions of the tomb. But now, again, you're looking at a building that's been standing there for 2,700 years. There is nothing like this in the world. It is the oldest standing wooden building in the world. Only one in Turkey.
Nasıl gidiyor? İlerleyebildiniz mi biraz?
İlerledim ve artık tamamlandı. Bu vazoya ait parçalardan sadece yerini bulamadığımız buradaki 4-5 tane parça kaldı. Geri kalanın hepsinin yerlerini tespit ettik ve açılımını yaptık. Biliyorsun buradan üstten baktığımızda vazonun kırılma sürecini ve kırılmanın neden meydana geldiğini öngörebileceğiz. Bu bölümde aslında bir arkeolojik kazının mutfağındayız gibi diyebiliriz. Zaten kaplarımız da burada. Bir restorasyon, konservasyon sürecinin yürütüldüğü alandayız. Buluntular 2019 yılında kazısı tamamlanan T52 numaralı tümülüste ele geçtiler. Ancak tümülüsün çökmüş olması ve buluntuların da bundan dolayı kırılmış olması, dağılmış olması nedeniyle tümülüsün içerisinde kaç vazo yerleştirildiği 3-4 yıllık bir çalışma sonucunda elde edilebildi bu bilgi. Restorasyon küçük buluntu üzerinde, hele ki seramik gibi kırılgan bir malzemede herkes için aslında çalışmalarımızı yıllarca yürüttüğümüzde bir puzzle ile benzeşen bir yönü var ve sadece vazoları ayağa kaldırmak ve kaç vazo olduğunu belirlemek yeterli değil. Bu vazoların neden kırıldıkları, kırılmalarına neyin neden olduğunu açığa çıkarmak da tümülüsle ilgili gizemi bize açıklayacak. Ve aynı zamanda tabii ki bu vazolar boş konmamışlardır ya da boş konduysa bunu da tespit etmek veya içlerinde herhangi bir yiyecek, içecek kalıntısı veya başka bir şey varsa bunu açığa çıkarmak da buradaki çalışmamızın temel amaçlarından birisidir. Bu tümülüsün biliyorsun Orta Frig başına tarihlenen bir tümülüs, muhtemelen 8. yüzyıl sonlarına tarihlenecek ama burada elde edilecek verilerle belki tarih daha net ortaya konacaktır ilerleyen çalışmalarda.
Excavations at Gordiyon'un began in 1900 as a byproduct of the building of the Berlin-Baghdad Railroad in the late 19th century. I became co-director in 2007 and full director in 2013. One of the most important activities in which I was engaged from the very beginning was our application to become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This we began in 2012, and 11 years later, we were finally inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage Site list last September in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. Last year, we began excavating on the southern side of the mound in a complex that we call the Mosaic Building. And as we were digging in this area, when we got down to early 6th century BC levels, the biggest surprise was this golden ivory sphinx that appeared at the end of July. This is the last thing we were expecting to find, but it was the most welcome discovery of the season. This sphinx probably decorated the top of a throne or chair in the mosaic building. Only the hair, the wing, and the tip of the tail are gilded, but this is an extraordinary discovery. We don't have anything like this from anywhere else at the site, and it highlights how important this complex was. We also found another piece of a sphinx at the end of the season, and we're now looking for that, the complete version of that Sphinx this summer. So the next time I speak to you, I hope to have 2 gilded ivory sphinxes discovered that I can show you.